Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good noon, good day, good dawn, good dusk, good post-meridian, good desk. Welcome to The Long Shot. I am one of your hosts. My name is Sean Conroy. Also with me today on the show, of course, as always, the other host, Amber Kenny, is here.
Hello. We are not in the same time zone.
No.
I vaguely knew that, but then the invite said 9 p.m. and I was like, what? Oh, right.
Oh,
right.
that's
and
weird.
It is for you.
I guess I must have changed it to 9 p.m. Ugh. I'm out of my mind. I can't remember.
No, it was correct. Like,
it was correct for me, but not for you.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that on purpose. I thought I would keep it at 6, and it didn't work. Anyway, folks, things are a shit show here at The Long Shot, as always.
Where are you? Tell us everything.
I am in Virginia, in a town called, or I don't know if it's a town, a village, a hamlet. It's just a little area. It's a geographical...
A cluster of a population.
Yeah. Called Sandbridge Beach, which is very close to the southern end of Virginia, just above North Carolina. If people know anything about geography, those two states border each other, and Virginia, runs right into North. You know how state borders work. Some are red, some are blue. But we have been going down to here to this particular beach town for almost over 40 years, maybe 45 years, maybe not 50, but every summer we come to this place with all my cousins from all over the country. So there are people here from Minneapolis, from Oregon, from Texas, from Washington, D.C. There's just a huge group of people that has been coming down for many, many years. And it's always a lot of fun, and you see all these people, and I'm with my I don't know what you call them, because they're not a nuclear family is like parents and kids, but this is like my parents, all their kids, all their spouses, all my nieces and nephews. We're all in the same house, which is
that branch of the family tree.
Mm-hmm. You've heard of the Branch Davidians. This is the Branch Conroys. So. We'll see what happens with the compound. But it's fun. It's fun. And the kids are all older now. They're like mid to late teens, most of them. So it's interesting. It's an interesting time.
How so?
I don't know if you remember. I don't remember. No, quite the opposite. It's really been great. I had one of them come over to me today and sit down next to me and say, very seriously, he was like, "Can I ask you a question?" And I was like, "Sure."
Oh God. Okay.
And he goes, "Have you ever had the pleasure of working with any of the people on The Office?" And I just thought that was such a funny question.
And you have.
Yeah. And so sincere.
You've done improv with a good amount of them.
Yeah. So I went through the whole cast, and I was like, oh, this person did this and this person did that. And I taught this person everything. And, but they're really, it's really been great, because you just never know. I don't know if you know about kids. You just never know how the fuck they're going to turn out, And it seems like all these people are doing pretty well.
That's nice. Are you all in the same house?
No. Just the 20 of us are in the same house.
That's still a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. It's crazy. It's absolute madness.
And then, so are all the other branches in houses on the same block?
It's not. There's various there's two streets running parallel, and two. So people are, but everybody's within walking distance.
Got it.
So always traditionally, we would have dinner at a different family's house every night. That obviously changed during COVID, where we would have 2 dinners at every family's house every night.
and really just wipe your nose on everyone.
but we had no. Oh, well, I'll get into that in a second. Speaking of wiping your nose, but uh, we so it's sort of like hybrid right now. Like the first night, my mother always volunteers to make dinner for anybody who shows up, not just us, but other families too, because she's like, well, they're
Sure.
traveling. I don't want them to. So people came to our place, and then we had dinner ourselves a couple nights ago, and then today was the traditional crab lunch. We always have a big crab lunch where everybody. I don't know if you've ever eaten crabs on the shell. It's a nightmare because it takes hours to get enough meat to make like an hors d'oeuvre.
You need a meal after your meal.
Right. So they nowadays they make brisket sandwiches in case anybody doesn't want to spend all their fucking time picking at crab meat.
Brisket sandwiches at crab lunch.
Yeah, so I had I had brisket instead of but that was another moment where like one of my nephews, I it's a big crowd of people, so sometimes you're like you go and you sit with people and then they go to get more food or whatever, and somehow for like 5 seconds I ended up and there was nobody around me, and my nephew who's like 17 just came over and was like, I'm going to do a bad impression, but he was like, oh, I saw that you're sitting by yourself, so I figured I'd come over here and hang out with you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, it was really, and we had a nice conversation.
17-year-olds are supposed to be like, look at that loser sitting by himself.
No,
I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette and like.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah,
like beat up a mailbox for absolutely no reason.
Right, just walk by and go, fuck you. Yeah. And that's why I say, like, they're turning out great because I thought that was so nice,
That's so kind.
When I was 17, I would have been like, ugh, look at that weirdo. I mean, that's what I'm like now,
Sure. So, yeah, maybe it's not the age.
So I was talking for a moment about wiping noses, and this is kind of a disgusting thing, but I want you to exercise I want you to make a determination for me because I had a weird moment today. There's no good answer here.
Okay.
But I was out for a walk on the street outside the house.
What's the weather like?
Freezing cold.
Really?
No. It was ridiculously hot. And I went walking.
I bought it. I was like, oh man, it's cold there.
No. It was like 90. It was 90 something degrees, and I went for a walk at like noon. It was like, yeah. But I'm on West Coast time. Things are weird.
And you don't have a regular sleep pattern, even West Coast style. I would argue.
Yeah, and I would not argue. I mean, it's a one-sided argument.
This is the first time.
It's a one-sided argument. You won the argument before it even started because you argued that I didn't have it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't. But so, and that's a problem when you fly east. You can't get out of bed. They were making fun of me yesterday. They were like, oh, you didn't get up till noon. I was like, I got up at 10. Let's be real. But then this morning, one of my brothers texted everybody for some ungodly reason. Texted everybody at 6:30 in the morning. A joke, basically, like a funny TikTok video. Not everybody, but just the brothers chain of. Mm-hmm. And so I was awake at 6:30, and then because
how good was the TikTok?
I had seen it before. I was not blown away. Yeah.
Nope.
Sorry, pal. You're late to the party. But then my other brother was out to get donuts and coffee. And so he texted everybody after that and said, do you want? So I got a coffee. So I got out of bed at 6:30 and I've been up ever since then. So I'm hoping.
Oh my God. I'm sorry that we're doing this.
No. This is great because I have a poker match after this. We're playing. I told my nephew because we played poker last year, but it was not or maybe 2 years ago, but it wasn't for money. And so they just didn't give a fuck. And they were like, yeah, I'm betting all my chips. And I was like, this is not how you play, guys. So this time I said, if we're going to play for real money. So everybody's going to put $10 in, and then Uncle Sean is going to take your money.
And run away.
Yeah. So I have that after this, but
that's so fun.
But so I went out walking, and I was walking along, and all of a sudden something like warm and wet landed on my arm. And I was like, ugh. And I just, there was like a bush right next to me, and I grabbed like a bunch of leaves and like wiped it off. And then I realized that there was a car driving by and a bird flying by. So I was like,
Uh-huh.
either somebody just spat out the window of the car and it landed on my arm,
Mhm.
or a bird just shat on my arm.
I would guess bird. Just like birds shit a lot. Like Occam's razor or whatever, like
Right, right.
I guess people do spit at people, but it feels that feels so hostile unnecessarily.
I agree, and I think that's probably not what happened, but I would posit that it's possible that this person drove past and was like, I'm far enough that I can spit now, and then
Oh my
spat,
God.
and it
And
was just one of
misjudged the
those
wind.
things. Yeah, yeah. Because they were going a little too fast and they got a backdraft and whatever. But
Okay.
then I was thinking about it and I was like, it sucks to get shit on by a bird, but it
Mhm.
also sucks to get spit on you from a person you don't know.
I
So I was
agree.
trying, I spent, it seems
One-sided
like
argument.
I would argue. So I spent the next 45 minutes of my walk going like, would it be better to get bird shit
Or
or
like,
like
should I
which
just
one was it?
do
Yeah,
I
like
walk into the ocean? Do I set myself on fire?
which is like which of these is grosser? Which would bum me out more? Like I wanted
Yeah,
to
no.
be the one that would bum me out less, but I couldn't decide which one would bum me out less.
Okay, I think bird is less. Even though shit is grosser, my logic is not sound. I'm putting that out
Mhm.
there ahead of time. But like there's bird shit kind of
Everywhere.
everywhere. And it's not pleasant, but it's like,
We
okay,
are
that happened.
inhaling mountains of bird shit every
Yes.
moment.
Um, but like having someone's loogie, like to me, that feels grosser. And I don't know if it's
Right.
just like the human to humanness of it all. I don't know.
I That's kind of where I landed eventually.
Yeah.
And leaving aside that it would be way worse, and I might just be talking myself into this,
What if
but I did
what if a person pooped out the window?
that would be worse. That would so but that actually reinforces your point, which is the human to humanness of it
Yeah.
makes it worse. Because if
And
it
I don't know
was
why. I guess because we assume that animals are kind of gross. Like we're just like, oh, it's an animal. It's kind of gross.
but yeah, but also like yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a million factors running through my head, but one of them was if it's a human, now just because of what's been going on the last few years, I'm like, I don't want anybody
Yeah, yeah,
spit
yeah.
anywhere near me, you know?
Now you feel like that.
I used to bathe in people's spit back in the day. It's like I would walk, you know how people walk around collecting change? I would collect
Yeah, you'd be
spit in
like,
a cup. Yeah. Guys, hook me up. But it just makes it so
yeah,
much worse to
totally.
be like, oh, there could be, you know, a COVID virus in this thing. And I feel like, you know, shit is shit, but birds probably eat pretty healthy. So there's not,
Exactly.
yeah,
It's that white stuff. Again, and it doesn't seem to be that smelly. Like again, I wouldn't
right. And don't
want to
birds have
rub it
like,
all over
no,
myself, but
but don't birds have like five stomachs so they like clean everything out of it? I guess that's
it's
not
on
helpful because it's only the shitty stuff that comes out, but
the bad stuff. So it's super
it's,
condensed
they,
bad stuff.
they only keep the really bad stuff stomach to stomach. Anyway, it really bummed me out for my whole
Yeah.
walk because I was just in my head going, what was that? What was
Well,
it?
and did you like throw whatever you're wearing
Yeah.
immediately in the
Oh,
washer
no, no,
machine?
no. I put that in my spit bucket where I collect
Sure.
spit. I didn't put it in the shit bucket where I collect shit. I just put it in the spit
Right.
bucket because I landed on spit. Anyway, that was my day, so that was great. But we always like to start the show with a segment that we call
Oh,
Check It In.
that wasn't it.
That was just a random because you said the thing about I wasn't going to talk about that, but you said the thing about wiping your nose, and that reminded me of. So why don't we start today checking in with Amber? Amber, what is going on in California these days?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. So Jeff and I take Smudgy to this one specific park in Burbank on a pretty regular basis, especially now that it's summer, because when we get off work, often it's still light out. And so it's like, it's a good excuse for all of us to get out of the house. It's beautiful. There's trees. He likes it. We like it.
All upsides. Everything is positive.
It's
grass. Is there grass?
There's so much grass.
Water fountains?
No water fountains.
Public restrooms?
Wait, there is a public restroom and
fences. Is there fences around?
Yeah. Sometimes.
I'm just trying to picture parks.
But it's silly that we commute to go to the park because we live near other parks, but this is like a particularly wide and not densely populated park. Like some days there's more people than other, but it's just like it's good for a little reactive dude. Like we could walk around without
it's easier to not have to deal with lots of other dogs.
And we can see like where other families with dogs are, and we can just sort of like reroute or go wide, and it's nice. We enjoy it. And it's right sort of on it's touching Griffith Park. It's not part of Griffith Park, but it's like right up against Griffith Park. And we've had a few coyote encounters. And I grew up in parts like this in the country. So I'm not super scared of coyotes. I don't think they will do anything to hurt me. I'm scared for them on behalf of Smudgy because he is like a bite-sized snack. And we've been in the park where like a coyote just like walks by us and obviously the coyote didn't say this, but it was like the energy of like some like good evening, like, and just kept walking, like couldn't be bothered. So
not like, hey, snacky poo.
No, just like I've got something else to do. Like, nice to see you. Good evening.
Have you guys seen a Roadrunner?
And it was funny because one of the times there was a woman around us who was like losing her mind, and she kept screaming at us, and I couldn't understand what she was saying. I found out later from Jeff she was saying, "Pick up your dog, pick up your dog. There's a coyote. Pick up your dog. There's a coyote." But like I was just like it did the opposite of what she wanted because I was so like, "What's wrong with this woman?" And she was freaking out so much that I thought there was a second coyote because I was like, "Oh yeah, he's back there." But like, anyway.
He's such a chill coyote. You need to calm down, man.
I appreciated her concern, but it was so over the top that it...
Did she have a dog herself?
She did.
So she knew what was up with coyotes.
Yes. And then I passed there was like sort of two families that were training their two huskies, like baby huskies. And I was just like,
both families had a husky? Oh, come on.
Yes. It looked like they were brothers. Like they liked hanging out and then they were like training them to be separate.
I see.
So I was just like, hey guys, just so you know.
There's a coyote! There's a coyote! There's a coyote!
I was like, just so you are aware, there is a coyote in the area. And they all looked up at me and were like, I know. And they kept doing what they were doing. So I was like, okay, so we've got polar opposite reactions to coyotes, like back to back. But that was a while ago. This week, we had an actual scary encounter. Because, as it gets closer to sunset, that's coyote time. Like, they're right. That's their domain. So we were going for a walk, and we saw a coyote sort of appear. So we're like, that's our cue. We're going to turn around and start heading back, at least towards the car. And I'm yapping on about some podcast I listened to or it was something I was really passionate about, but I was like, I could tell that Jeff was barely listening because he was tracking the coyote because
And why does Michael Barbaro always say during the daily? Why does he always say he just goes, Like, why does he do that? Can't they cut that out?
So Jeff was keeping his eye on the coyote. The coyote, he fully was stalking Smudgy, and it was really intense to watch because he was good at what he did, because he stayed a good distance away, but he just stayed like, because we were trying to walk away from him, and he just stayed like equidistant but a distance away from us, just casually walking along,
just whistling like,
yeah. And then at one point he turned, because he was all doing this like we were walking kind of profile to each other, and then at one point he just turned.
Would you say slowly he turned?
Slowly he turned, and he started kind of running at us. And I was like, okay, like, and so in my head I'm like, do I have to like karate kick a coyote? Like, I haven't braced myself for
apparently
this.
If you hit them in the snout, they'll swim away.
Well, we just, because we were still in the park, and we just like went right to the road, and we're like, fuck it. We walked in the middle of the road, and I think he was afraid, the coyote was afraid enough of roads.
He's not sure the road is real. He thinks it might be painted onto the wall.
Sure. But that worked, and he went and started like stalking someone else. But it was there was a minute there that I was like, okay. Oh, right. And Smudgy seemed to not ever know what was going on, or he's such a genius that he freaks out about everything. But when it is real danger, he's just like, I'm going to get very zen and quiet and listen. But yeah, that was some drama. And so we walked all the way back to our car, and because we walked probably like a mile away from our car at that point, and we were very aware of where he was. We were tracking him, and he also was going the same direction. And yeah, wow. We got to our car, and we just like sat in our car, and we watched him freak out like multiple other families. And then a woman, I know she was, again, I think meaning well, but she like ran up to him like going with like shouting and waving her arms, because I think she was just trying to get him to get away from that area. But he ran like into the area where people live, like instead of back into Griffith Park.
You've made
so
it
I was
worse,
like, I was like, I don't know if that accomplished what you wanted it to accomplish, but man, it was exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting, scary. We're all fine. We had a near-death experience, but like divorcing myself from the fact that our dog was in real danger, it was kind of cool to watch a coyote like at work. Like, they're good at
what they really do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have liked it if you guys would have just kept walking as the coyote kind of watches you. And, just like that.
And then he like ran into a light pole.
Yeah, or I was thinking like you get to a cliff and he just keeps walking off the edge of the cliff.
And then he has like a little sign that's like, help. Poor coyote.
I will say I've seen him a couple times. I don't have a dog, but I've seen them out. I've seen dogs out and I've seen coyotes out, but I've
bragging.
I'm not a fan of running into a coyote. I had one time I was at UCB. This was a long time ago because it was when I still lived on Franklin and Western. And this coyote, it was like a half a mile from UCB Theater, and I was walking home, and it just followed me all the way. It was this. I guess I was the one it was stalking at that point.
Like, he's like, cigarettes?
Yeah. Hey, buddy, can I talk to you about something? I got a flat tire. I'm wondering if you could give me $20. I gotta wait till the tow truck comes. It's a whole scam.
Right. No, I just need change for a 20. It's not, well, and the day before we were at that same park, and there's always skunks, and they're really cute. They're like baby skunks, but we avoid them.
Apparently they don't smell particularly well.
No. But as we were getting into our car the day before the coyote incident, as we were getting back to our car, there was two dogs just like running around free. And and the owner just started like like when there's like real intensity in someone's voice and yell like it's there's an urgency, and so I was like, what is going on?
Like Mel Gibson in Braveheart.
Yes, exactly like that. And it turned out that the skunk had sprayed both dogs. And so we were just like, what do you do? Like, because we watched the guy, like, the dogs were freaking out and rolling on the grass trying to get the scent off them. But the guy just got both huge dogs that are sprayed with skunk spray into his little car. And I was like, oh, that car just is going to smell like that forever. Right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I've never, knock on wood, I've never been sprayed by a skunk. I've been spat on by a Jeep driver or shat on by a bird, but I've never been.
That one's good luck.
Sprayed by a skunk. And but it's like, what do you do? Like I do, like I just have in my head old wives' tales, like you bathe in tomato juice, or you bathe in milk, or or you spray a lot of cologne on to cover it up.
That feels like it only things are well, and that's what we were thinking. I mean, Smudgy doesn't even let us really pick him up. The idea of putting him in a tomato soup bath, just it feels like impossible. And the whole time we're like,
yeah.
I don't know what that poor man did.
It is a weird thing about LA that you have all these places where you can encounter wildlife that, it just, I mean, I guess there's rats in New York, but just rats, not a lot of other stuff. You're not going to run into a coyote on Fifth Avenue.
Right.
You could shoot a coyote on Fifth Avenue. I came home once. This was where I live now. And this girl dropped me off in the middle of the night, and she drove. Well, no, she dropped me off and drove away. So I was just about to go up the stairs to my apartment, and I looked to my left, and there were, I would say, 12 raccoons in a fucking brawl in the area behind the fence. And it was so scary because it was just like
a fight club,
teeth and claws, and and I ran all the way up the hill from where I live because I was like, I'm getting out of here until those guys are gone. I actually, the morning I left for this trip, I posted it on Instagram. I went down to throw the garbage out before I left, and there was a giant raccoon in my garbage dumpster. And I walked in, it was like 3:30 in the morning, and I walked in with this big bag of garbage, and I saw this giant raccoon standing there, not looking at me, definitely heard me coming, didn't even turn around, and I threw this giant bag of garbage up and threw it into the dumpster, and it boom, landed right there. The raccoon was like,
didn't even flinch.
All right. And just like slowly walked away, and didn't go far, like went up to a stairwell over.
Oh, I'm so scared.
Yeah, like, do what you need to do, buddy.
It's their time, though. 3 a.m. is the raccoon's time.
Well, I would argue. Well, no, I'm not going to argue. So that sounds exciting.
I as much as I say like these scary-ish encounters, like I love it. It's exciting.
And you don't carry the coyote spray?
I don't know.
Okay, because I've heard that's very effective. That's a lot of the insurrectionists at the January 6th attack used coyote spray.
I don't know if I want to
on the police, and I just heard it was great. They were pushed into it. The guy who's sort of editorializing but really doesn't care.
It was false flag.
I'm commenting on politics, but I'm so exhausted by it. So I was in my hometown for a couple of days this week. And, this obviously hometown. This is where I grew up, and it was so funny to me to be back in my hometown. It's always pleasant. A lot of my family is there. I get to, but it's always a little weird because I kind of left there when I was like 13. Like I went off to high school in the Bronx and off to college in Massachusetts, and then lived in Manhattan after that. So a lot of the people in my family, like, some of my brothers have lived there all their lives. Some of them worked as bartenders in the town while they were going to
So
law
they have
school.
more of a sense of like the community as an adult, because that's a different thing.
Right. And I don't have that, but I do appreciate when I have encounters there that remind me of what it was like for me when I was a kid there. So the second day I was there, I was driving from my I don't know where I was. Who the fuck cares where I was going? But I had a green arrow to turn left.
Ooh, luxury! A green arrow?
Yeah, not the comic book character, not the TV show Arrow, played by Stephen Amell, who caused all sorts of controversy by saying he didn't believe in striking. Not that arrow. Just a green traffic arrow. So I started to turn left, and somebody coming the other way was like, I don't care that I have a red light. I'm going to keep going and go this way. And so I did what you do in that situation. I feel like this is why they invented the horn. Yes, I honked my horn and kept driving. And all of a sudden I realized this guy has pulled up and is driving along next to me.
Oh boy.
And he has his window down and he's screaming out the window at me. And I'm like, dude, you had a red light back there. Like yes, I beeped at you and that was rude. I am not going to apologize for that.
I could have saved a life.
Yeah. And it could have been yours.
Right.
And he like for, I don't know, half a mile in traffic, he just stayed right next to me and was screaming and whatever. And we were giving each other the finger, and I was like, fuck you. No. You don't know what you're talking about.
Then you start getting like shaky.
Well, at a certain point, this really made me laugh. At a certain point, we get up close to, and I'm now about to go in a different direction.
This was this week?
Yeah, this was just a couple days ago.
Oh my God.
And so now we're stopped at a light. So we're just right next to each other. And he's all the way out the window, leaning out the window, going, pull over right now, pull over. And I'm like, this guy wants us to have, this is at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Friday morning. And he wants us to have, talk about Fight Club. He wants us to have Fight Club behind the Bethel Temple on North Avenue, And so I just started laughing at him. Like I just was chuckling to myself and I was like, I'm not pulling over. No. And he's like, I thought so. And I was like, then why did you ask me? And I turned left. But it was, and as I was driving away, I was like, this is what this town is like. Like somebody wants to fight you at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Friday morning because you beeped at them when they ran a red light. That's worth face-to-face violence. So it was just nice to be home. Yeah. And then, a couple of nights later, or maybe it was the same night, or maybe it was the next night. Anyway, I went out to dinner with my parents and so there's only a couple of types of food my folks will eat. They'll eat like Mexican food or Italian food, and that's about it because
those are two great choices, but there's good things.
There's a world of possibilities. Yeah. I can only imagine what would happen if they ever tried like Ethiopian food or,
Oh, wow.
Not interested. But it's always like, they're like, where do you want to go to dinner? And I'm like, I don't think where I want to go to dinner matters because you guys have a couple of places that you always... And
say Italian because you could get really good Mexican food here, right?
Right. But the problem is there's two Italian places. So there's one way downtown and there's one much closer to where they live. And I like the one way downtown, but it's incredibly noisy every time we go there. And I always forget that. And then we go in and I'm like, ah,
Oh, right.
shit. Like
Yeah.
there's music blaring and so they were like, oh, why don't we go to this place right close to here? And so we go in. It's a, nice little Italian place. It is so fucking loud the second we walk in. And of course, when you're in a little place like that, the reason it gets so loud is because you're like, there's like one table here that is shouting at each other and it's making
And
everybody else raise their volume. So we basically were all the way in the front of the restaurant and couldn't talk to each other because it was so
oh my
loud.
God.
And I was facing the restaurant, they were facing the window, so they were like, look around and see who it is, who's the table. And I picked out two tables in the back. There were two.
It was the guy that ran the red light.
Well, it was funny. There was a table in the back, and I walked all the way back to use the restroom, and I walked by them, and I was like, it was a group of like 6 guys, and there's only like 4 top tables in this place. So they had like pulled a bunch of stuff together, and and they were like, obviously this is, I don't know what they were. They were like firemen or plumbers or scientists. I don't know what they were, but they were having a great time and they were screaming at each other, just like, hey, fucking this and fucking that. And, just yelling and screaming at each other. And, it was really making me laugh, so I went back and I was like, there's guys back there and, whatever. And, we were like, well, they're probably finishing dinner pretty soon. Well, it turned out not only were they not finishing, but somehow our order, it was Italian food, but it was an Italian restaurant. So it should not have been a stumper, but it ended up taking like an hour and a half to get the food there, to the point where the waiter was like, I am so sorry. This last round of drinks is on me. I'll take care of you guys. And it was just that loud the whole time. And then finally we're leaving and kind of slowly making our way out because, there's my parents have, yeah, right. Trying not to walk off a cliff. And, no, they both have like ambulatory issues, and I'm trying to hold the door for them and get out. And literally, as they are making their way out the door, they get engulfed by this group of guys who were there the whole time, who are coming out at the same time,
still shouting,
screaming at each other like, fucking this, fucking that. Let me tell you another thing. Hey, Jerry, when you get home, do this and do that. Don't do this, do that. Do this instead of that. Don't do that, do this. And they're like it's like almost like my parents are in the crowd with them at this point, and both just like looking around like as these guys are screaming at each other. And so so it just was like, good to be home,
Yeah.
Good to be back in New Row.
They say you can never go home again, but
get some of the local color. But it was fun. I got to see actually a couple of my nephews play a basketball game against each other. So that
how do you root?
I rooted for whoever had the ball at any given time, and I was like, you guys are the best. Yeah. No, it was funny because one of them is playing for the high school from my hometown, and the other one is playing for the high school I went to down in the Bronx. And it was just coincidentally that they were both playing in this game, but it was really fun, and it also, as it happened, it was a great game. Literally came down to a last second shot not going in that one of them won and the other one lost. I don't know if you know how games work, but one of the teams wins and the other one.
So you had to be like, good game. Oh, you didn't get any of the calls that you should have.
Guys, what was going on out there? I don't understand. But it was fun. So anyway, that's my checking in. It was good to be home, and then we drove down. I drove down.
How long of a drive is that?
Well, it's really like a 7 or 8 hour drive, but it took us about 9 or 10. Like this was a funny. We stopped for lunch. They always stop for lunch at this little Duck Pond Park in Maryland. And my mom said the park was built in 1996, and they've been stopping at that park every year on their way down ever since. And there's like
1996.
yeah, yeah.
A
There's
funny
like
year to be like,
yeah.
okay.
Well, we all remember 1996 like it was yesterday. The
That was before
Clintons,
9/11.
Whitewater,
Yeah.
yeah. Newt Gingrich was in office, but the Friends was huge at that time. I don't know if you remember that show.
Oh, I know.
It was on NBC, but it was
Must see
really
TV.
doing well. Yeah, there was a whole night of stuff.
Thursday.
I don't remember what night it was, but you were supposed to watch it. They said, definitely.
Must see.
Right. But because it's like this nice little duck pond, I swear we were there for like an hour and 15 minutes, just kind of like hanging out.
You were like,
I don't stop when I'm on the road. I mean, I stop to use the restroom, but then I'm like, I'm buying a burger and eating it in the car,
So wait, when you say you eat lunch there, is there a restaurant or you pack
packed lunch, sandwiches, crackers and cheese. Oh my God,
this sounds really sweet.
Blueberries, waters, like it was a whole thing. But there's a visitor center there, and I went into the visitor center, and there were two ladies in the visitor center. Hello. No, just two nice little older ladies whose only job is to sit there and get people to sign their visitor book. So I walked in, and
you think they're paid on commission?
Donna, you gotta get more signatures. This book is half empty.
It's been around
it's half full. Yeah. We've been getting these signatures since 1996. And look, the last one is dated 1997. What have you been doing all this time? Why are you just sitting around smiling? Get on it. Get some signatures. So I walked in, and one of the women was like, "Can we get you to sign our guest book, young man?" And I was like, "You know what? You absolutely can, because I so appreciate you calling me young man." And we were all laughing. And then they were like, "Where are you going?" And I said, I'm in from California, and I'm going to Southern Virginia. I'm going down to Sandbridge Beach in Virginia. And they were like, "Just like those people out there." And I was like, "Yeah, that's my parents." I said, "Yes, those are my parents. I'm driving down with them." And they were like, "Oh, they're so lucky that they can count on you. They're so lucky." And I was like, they think they can count on me. They and she and she was like, "They can." I wanted to be like, "No, they can't. No, they should not."
You're like, "Sorry, we can't go on this trip. I have to keep arguing with this lady."
But also, it also the way she was saying it, she was kind of wistful, and it made me feel like she didn't like. She was like,
"What's going on with your life?"
She was like, "My son George is so unreliable. Like, I ask him just to bring groceries by, and he forgets. I gave him the money." I'm like, "What did you do with the money, George?" He's like, "I bought a lot of lotto tickets." I'm like, "How am I supposed to have my cereal with milk in it if you didn't buy me cereal and milk?" "Well, Mom, I bought a lot of lotto." I'm like, "George, didn't I teach you about the lotto? You can't." Anyway, that was what was that was what was going on in my head. Because she really did seem like, "Oh, I wish I had someone I could count on like they count on you." Yeah, they don't. They function on their own. I'm a separate entity. All right. Well, this seems like a good place to do a segment on the show that we like to call Parting Shots. So let's start today. By the way, today's show brought to you by Diet Coke. If you're on a diet but you love Coke, try Diet Coke, not the nose candy.
You're going to be nice and caffeinated for this poker game.
I know. Boy, it's going to be exciting for the young kids. All right, parting shots. Amber.
Yeah, this one will be short and sweet, but on the last episode, I mentioned a social experiment with my younger coworkers, if they even knew who the Fonz was.
Mm-hmm.
And I implemented that test. I asked them, and they do not. I think I asked like 6 or 7, and one was like, I do know who that is because my mom always references it. But like she wouldn't have had any organic bumping up against that character other than that.
And did you do the other part too of like, do you know who this guy is from Barry?
Oh, when they were looking up who they were, somebody was like, oh, it's the guy who plays Ben Shapiro's dad on Parks and Rec. And I was like, what? And I was like, you mean Ben Schwartz? Ben Shapiro's a bad dude. He's not related to Ben Shapiro.
Here's the thing you have to understand about the liberals.
But yeah, they're like, oh, the guy from Barry. And episodes of Parks and Rec is where they recognized him from.
Okay. So they knew who the actor was. They just didn't know.
Yes.
The most iconic character of television in the 1970s.
Right. And then we talked about Jump the Shark, and some of them knew the phrase but didn't know it was him. And it was a good conversation. I had people my age sort of witnessing, and they kept getting like, no. And I was like, hey, we don't need to get emotional. Like, if they don't know, they don't know. Like, why would they know if it never came across their path? Why would they know?
You can't argue people into knowing something.
Or like shame them from just being born at a different time than you. It's foolish.
Right. Well, that makes me sad because I wish more people knew the Fonz.
They love The Nanny, but because of Nick at Night, not because of original airings. And they got really excited that I was alive when The Nanny aired, and I had to walk away.
Oof.
I was like, all right, this conversation's over.
And you know, she's doing a great job with the whole strike thing. So
The Nanny is really hot with Gen Z. Just
is
hot
it really?
tip. Don't know the Fonz, love The Nanny. I have a very small sample set I'm working with, but that's what I've discovered.
I think it might be skewed because it's so small. I think it could change if you did a larger.
I'm going to write a paper about it.
If you did a larger population, you could make it a bigger deal. But I do think Fran Drescher is doing a great job, and I just enjoy the fact that I am on strike from two jobs that I didn't have. So it's nice to be.
Now it's noble.
If the strike ends, I will go back to not working at the jobs I didn't have. All right, here's my parting shot. And I know I'm like, this is stretching it out so much, but I have been, as I've said, I've been working on this short film.
Oh, yeah.
Literally for a year now. I mean, I did my shot by shot, this is what I want to shoot that I sent to my DP at this house last summer with all my nephews.
Right.
Yeah. And so anyway, I'm trying to get it done. And the one thing I have left to do is I have to get the end credits, and there's people making the end credits, and there's just been all sorts of difficulties and delays and so on and so forth. And the people that are doing it live in Maryland, and they're old friends of mine. It's the two old ladies. It's the two little old ladies at the. I haven't had time because I've been trying to get signatures for the book here. But anyway, I'm going to go have lunch with them in a couple of days. And I was like, just because I want to see them, but I was also like, if I go see them, I can sort of go, guys, are we going to finish this or no? And
what if the answer's or no?
Well, but here's what happened. Of course, because this is creeping up, today I got the end credits shipped to me. Not shipped, but like however, I don't know what you do with a computer. You send via
Digi
text.
delivery.
Yeah. But I got it and I watched it and I was like, holy shit. Like
It
it's
looks like credits. It
it's
looks like a
really
real
cool.
movie.
The music is
Aw.
great. The credits are great. Seeing them both together, and as I wrote back to them, and I said, this is so. It's just so crazy because it's like they and the guy who did the music took this vague idea I had in my head and executed it in such a cool way that it's going to add so much to, even though it's just the end credits, it's going to add so much to the film, and it makes me really excited to show it to people.
That's so awesome.
I'm really excited to show it to them only so they can get to the end and watch the end credits. The rest of it, not so interesting. No. But it really makes the whole thing. I don't know.
Come together.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. And people could hate it easily. I mean, it's been known to happen. With I don't know if you ever heard about Heaven's Gate, but people, boy, they really went after that movie, and I don't think it was terrible. I mean, it was too expensive, but Barbie, a lot of people are talking about how Barbie is very too woke. They say it's too woke.
It passed a billion. It passed a billion. Pew, 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 pew.
Just to explain to people, I texted Amber after our last episode and said Barbie has made 700. What does it say?
Oh yeah, you yeah.
It's yeah.
You got it.
It just
right.
was just like Barbie has passed 775 million.
And I wrote back, it's gonna pass a billion, and you're like, it's gonna pass at least, and then you did like one more than that.
No. I said at least. I argued a billion. I was like, you said a billion, and I was like, or at least 780 million. Like, let's not get carried away.
But I was right.
Yeah,
I was going to message you today, but I knew I was going to talk to you.
I think it could pass 2 billion at some point. Like it feels like it's doing very well. I still have not seen it, so it's going to take
2 billion
money.
is a lot, Sean. Now I'm like,
well, it goes. Am I wrong about this, or does it go 1 billion then 2 billion?
2 billion. Yeah, no, it takes a while
to get one.
To
it's one more than 1 billion. Like it doesn't seem.
I mean, I know this because I know numbers, but also at work, we are always tracking the amount of views on YouTube of Gabby's Dollhouse, and we passed 1 billion at some point this year, which was very, very exciting. But the unfortunate thing is we have almost no updates because it takes so long to have another number. Like we're still at 1 billion. Like, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, even though it's growing, there's so many numbers that have to get bigger. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I do, but I also say, like, I have not checked Barbie recently, but I bet, within the next day or two, it's probably going to be 2 billion because they hit.
I'll take that bet.
They hit 1 billion.
I'll take that bet.
They literally hit 1 billion like a week ago, and that was very quick.
Right. Well, like, I guess in comparison, Super Mario Brothers is the #1 movie of the year so far.
Oh, and great. I'm glad, because let's have more movies about video games and toys. Sorry, that was just me editorializing again.
Wait, you had too much passion. You need to throw it away.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the Super Mario Brothers, the movie about a video game?
Not okay. But I think they made $1.3 billion worldwide, and they opened in the spring, and everyone was like, oh my God, what a huge success. So Barbie can get to 2 billion, but it's not going to be tomorrow.
Probably the next day though, right?
Okay.
Folks, unfortunately, Jamie Flam was not here again tonight. There was a possibility, but it did not occur. So,
did I address my weird orange lipstick?
Please, by all means.
It's weird. I got it on sale, And it's very strange. But I wore it tonight for you.
I appreciate it. And mine is clear, so you can't even see it. But yeah, hopefully Jamie will be here one of these weeks and we'll see what happens. And that's it. By the time you hear this, I will be
Barbie will have hit $4 billion.
I mean, I know you're joking, but it's really doing well, so it would not surprise me.
I was making that point initially. And you're like, I for one am supporting the movie Amber.
Yeah, please. I think it deserves all this success. I'm not mad at it. But we'll see if Jamie makes it next week. We'll see if by then I have seen Barbie. We'll see if Amber has seen Barbie by then.
I've seen it twice. I didn't talk about it. I'm so proud of myself.
You saw it a second time. Will you go back a third time? That's the question.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I got to help them get to that $4 billion number.
Well, if you go back a third time, honestly, that puts them way closer to 4 billion. Like if you did it before the end of the week.
Oh, forget it. I've only gone to matinees. Imagine if I paid full price.
Oh my God.
How much I could help the cause.
You ripped them off. Also, you should do that thing that they do at that pedophile movie about child trafficking.
Just buy
a bunch of tickets for the next crowd. Like, I'm going to do that when I go to Barbie. I'm going to be like, can I get 50 more for the next showing? And just whoever shows up, give it to them? Because I'm trying to get it to 4 billion.
So I guess if the people who show up aren't paying, I'm not really making any more money.
All right. Well, I just think we should look at the box office receipts on Friday and see how far they've gotten. Folks, this has been The Long Shot. It is a podcast. I realize, of course, as I'm doing this and I was going, fucking this and fucking that, the walls here are paper thin.
And you're with all of your family.
I got yelled at because I was on the phone too late the other night. Not yelled at, but I was spoken sharply to.
I know how you take things. Someone was like, hey, you were on the phone late. And you're like,
all right, full disclosure.
He screamed at me.
Full disclosure, somebody said, were you on the phone last night?
I thought somebody was. Yeah. You're like, I get
it. Folks, we will see. Smash the buttons. And we'll see you next time on The Long Shot. Now I have to do this thing.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Buying your love with the money I got from my tax return, and I'll put it away until Christmas or some other time. Because lately I simply don't know where I'm going, in spite of the dozens of street signs I've stolen. The trains try their hardest to keep me from rolling, so I roll back into bed and I think of you. For as long as that will take me, and I sit around till the end of the day. Proper position, and me in the right state of mind.